PBS Kids. My relationship with this network is an interesting one, is what I would say had I any with it whatsoever, since I didn't grow up with it and only had second-hand experience with some of its shows thanks to other channels. But to be fair, those did include Sesame Street, Bob the Builder, and Caillou, so really just all the classics people have nothing but fond memories of. I just didn't watch them on the channel itself, and due to that also didn't know about a wide variety of them, which aired from like 2005 to now. The only way I would have heard about them was from my brother, who much preferred watching Disney Junior over, you know, Sid the Science Kid. Yes, I know I look like him, you can stop pointing it out now. So since I didn't grow up with it, you might as well assume that WordGirl, a PBS Kids show that first aired in 2013, was a bit of an odd choice for me to make a video on. It's an educational series way out of the age range the majority of my viewership is in, which also includes about 3% senior citizens. Don't know how to feel about that. So what could I possibly have to say about it other than it's fulfilling its educational purpose, or isn't? Why would I make a video on this show and not any of the other 100 that were airing there at some point? Well, it's simple really. I like covering shows no one else has talked about on this platform, even though they seem to have touched so many over the course of their run. It's somewhat of a nostalgic experience to at least someone, even if it isn't for me personally. Be it one aimed at younger viewers or a bit of an older demographic that ultimately shouldn't matter. Look at Sesame Street alone. That show easily managed to transcend the age barrier and be both educational to kids and entertaining to their parents. So who's to say that WordGirl isn't able to evoke that same experience with a rating of 6.6 on IMDb. I mean, that's not too bad, is it? I also got paid to do this video, so thanks Ryan for the request. And word up, it's WordGirl from the planet Lexicon. With a vocabulary that astounds and a monkey sidekick Captain Huggy Face by her side, she tries to save the world through protecting it from evil and making her villains quite literally eat their own words. Whenever she isn't, Becky is just your average elementary schooler trying to maintain a secret identity and basically teach kids to be a better person along the way. As the show is aimed at about 4 to 9-year-old children, there's about as much morality in here as you would expect, but mixed in with about 2 or 3 new words each episode, which it quizzes you about right after the end of each episode with the game show May I Have a Word. A fun and engaging way to test the viewer's knowledge and cap off the events that just transpired. It's not as groundbreaking as, say, Arthur saying gay rights, but still educational enough for kids to have merit on its own, and beyond that has also been a pretty entertaining watch for me. And obviously going into the show I wasn't expecting much. Not only am I clearly just miles above the target demographic, but also not all too interested in watching what seemed to be a pretty poorly made Flash animated show, which, yes, I still think the show is cutting corners here and there, but that's to be expected, and the show made up for it with some very charming character interactions and tongue-in-cheek humor, which made me laugh too from time to time. Yeah, it's silly, but obviously I can't set my standards too high for a show aimed at pretty young kids, and there's a reason the show has been going on for as long as it did, which, by the way, you wouldn't believe how many episodes of this there are. 130 segments, give or take, including multiple movies, which are pretty cool, and a wide variety of different scholastic books. The show seemed to have been huge at some point. Or maybe that's just the popularity some shows on the network are on these days, I don't know.
I'm WordGirl, and I'm a big fan of reading books. Know why? Because books are made up of words! Remarkable, dazzling, sensational words!
Fact of the matter is, the show is hard to it, and that especially shows in Becky's interactions with her family, her and Captain Huggy Pants, which are just very charming to see together, and like I said, how the show never takes itself all too seriously. I mean, the main villain is a human rat with an additional brain on his head, while the other is a human sandwich, which doesn't even make sense, cause a male witch would be a warlock. It's a sand warlock. Gara! IMDb describes the show as satirical yet educational, which is a pretty accurate description. There's probably kids out there who are already aware of the words that I try to teach them, like design and confusing, which stand next to some like exasperation, which they would really hammer in at times.
Exasperating.
But it was never at the expense of the episode's plots, which ranged from somewhat ridiculous to whatever is going on here. And they would also balance that out with these interview segments at the end of each episode where they had kids tell us what their favorite words were, which also reminded me of what they would do on Bear in the Big Blue House back in the day. I wonder where those kids are today. What have their lives turned into? How many of their Kickstarter campaigns were successful? Just one? Oh, that's a shame. While I didn't find the time to watch all 8 seasons of WordGirl, and also didn't feel like too many people would care, I was pleasantly surprised with what it brings to the table and could see kids of all ages finding enjoyment in this. I don't know if I would go so far as to call it the next SpongeBob, which this IMDb comment would like me to believe, but this is the same guy calling Dr. Two Brains handsome, so I take his criticism with a grain of handful of salt. Speaking of salt, I hope I didn't come off as salty in this review, because I genuinely feel like WordGirl is the most underrated PBS Kids show out there. And should you have, say, a little sibling or kids of your own, you will find enjoyment in how it juggles entertainment and knowledge, which after all truly is the making of a great educational show. My name is Cosmodore, and why are animated movies terrible now? They aren't.